little while ago, we got the news that DreamWorks had decided, for some reason, to delve into the realm of making live-action adaptations of their animated works, specifically with the announcement that they were making a How to Train Your Dragon live-action film. And yeah, I don't get it. Like, I'm a bit mixed on all the Disney live-action remakes anyway, because sometimes they can be legitimately good, and sometimes they're so bad and they completely butcher the original source material. I mean, very rarely is there any in-between on that. But at least with the majority of those films, they're remaking films that are, well, they're usually a bit older. Sometimes they're Golden Age, sometimes Renaissance, but rarely do they go further than that. Usually they're 20 plus years old. Until, of course, they announced that they were making Moana. Ugh. I mean, at this point, how long is it until they make a hyper-realistic, animated Zootopia film that just pales in comparison to the original completely and utterly because the animals' faces just can't express enough emotion compared to a more stylized animation? But yeah, let's not get too sidetracked right now. At the moment, I just want to keep whinging about How to Train Your Dragon because yes, they're remaking the film, and I don't necessarily think it's a good idea, but it is what it is. It's being made and there's nothing to do about it now, and since I'm a fickle person anyway, I will most definitely be watching the film regardless. And I think my main saving grace here is that at least the original director's the one who's directing this film as well, or at least I think he is. So it's not like they're just giving the movie to some random person and hoping for the best. With the original director, it does have the best possible chance of being a legitimate success, so there's that. And for a while, that was all the news we had. I figured they'd just be in the pre-production stage for ages, writing a script, concept art, all that sort of stuff. I certainly wasn't expecting any casting announcements anytime soon. I mean, the film's not scheduled for release until 2025? And that's just the first announcement of a date. I feel like those dates always find themselves being adjusted. March 2025 could quickly find itself becoming November or December 2025, or even push into 2026. You never know, really. But yeah, we recently got casting announcements for Hiccup and Astrid, probably our two most important castings, except for Stoic. And honestly, I do feel like Stoic's probably going to be a decently big name actor, or at least bigger than these kids. I feel like films like this need to be built around an anchor point. A big name that can add some prestige and draw some eyes and interest. I mean, look at the Disney live actions. That's how they do things. A lot of the cast are actors you haven't really seen much of, and then there's one or two really big names, just to make investors happy. Stoic's the prime character for that. But yeah, I keep getting sidetracked. Hiccup and Astrid, they've been cast, and well, I'm not upset, but I'm also not exactly seeing it completely, right? I think the girl they got for Astrid, she seems good. She's had some roles in some big stuff recently. This is a next big step for her career. But I'm looking at her age, and realistically, by the time they film this thing, she's going to be, 19? How old's the character meant to be? Aren't they supposed to be 14 or 15? I know you can't always cast people at the exact right age, but then why not just cast two actors who are at least the same age? I know it doesn't always seem like it at the time, but having lived through that age bracket and looking back, the reality is that there's a bit of a big difference between being 15, like the guy they've cast to play Hiccup is, and 18, like the girl they've cast as Astrid. It's like the whole Aang Katara live action. I mean, there's this wacky photo going around of the actors all together that just makes you go, what? Bruh, look at all of them there. I mean, knowing that Aang and Katara are supposed to be romantically involved during the show, it's enough to make you feel more than a bit queasy about the whole thing, whilst also making you quite curious as how they could actually even make it feel realistic from a writing point of view, because I just don't see it. And I'm worried that's how it's going to play out for this particular casting decision. I'm not saying the acting will be bad or anything like that, after all. I've not actually seen anything that these actors have been in, but I have done a little bit of sleuthing, and from what I understand, whilst these actors aren't the most seasoned or experienced or well-known, the stuff they've been in has been good, so I'm not worried they're going to suck. But what I am worried about is this, the relationship, because let's be real, the romantic aspect of Hiccup Astrid makes up a core part of the franchise. This relationship, I'm not sure it's going to feel believable or will just feel quite weird. I don't know, it's just a vibe I'm getting from it. Apart from that, not really sure I have much to say about the casting choices that have been made here. Look, I'm happy to be wrong in the end. I mean, for all we know, the film comes out and it turns out I'm completely wrong. That the age gap's no big deal, that you can't really notice it, and the actors and their dynamics perfect. And if that day comes, I'll own up to it. Never minded being wrong about that sort of stuff, but until then, I'm going to reserve the right to be somewhat cynical and apprehensive about all of this. I did say we were coming to an end just before, but after a bit of reading through posts and stuff on this topic, I have noticed there's also a bit of backlash in regards to the race of the girl playing Astrid, in that I think she's mixed race, and she has much darker features than Astrid, obviously. And for me, personally, that is not something that bothers me here. Yeah, she doesn't physically resemble the character, but in my eyes, physical appearance, it doesn't really matter unless it informs the actual character. So if Astrid being blonde with blue eyes mattered to the story, then I'd care a bit more. But her being blonde with blue eyes does not inform the way her character behaves or her arc in the actual narrative. And so to me, it's a non-issue. Oh, and I also just thought of another thing. What happens when you turn this into a longer franchise? Say this first film does well for itself and it gathers up a big box office, which, well, that's far from a certainty anyway. I mean, the animated films, whilst they did well enough for themselves, they certainly didn't earn as much money as you'd think. For a franchise with such an enthusiastic fan base, you'd expect some better numbers. The first film got $494 million. The second one improved on that for $621 million. And then the third film grossed $525. Respectable numbers, but not setting the world on fire either. And so, I can't really see this film doing much better than that, surely. But yeah, let's say it does do very well, out of the blue, and it spawns many sequels of its own. Let's say they do the 3 films, remake them all. Optimistically, you'd start filming the second film sometime in 2026. After all, surely the studio isn't going to be greenlighting a sequel before they see the first one's a massive success, right? Right? Surely not. And the longer these things take, the older the actors become. And I mean, it's not like it's the end of the world, as at least with How to Train Your Dragon, the characters do age up quite significantly between installments, so you're not going to have that jarring effect of having your character age a year, whilst your actors aged like 2 to 3 in the meantime. But still, I think it could pose problems. And look, this second one, it is me nitpicking things, but for the most part, I am happy with the casting. I think most of the hate, overblown. The race thing, it does not matter. And really my main concern is literally just that age gap. I think it has potential to be a bit weird. But yeah, I'm pretty keen to see who else gets cast in the future. I still think this film's going to end up as a bit of a train wreck, and I do think it's going to fail. But I guess we'll have to wait and see on that front. And so, I've rambled on long enough. So I guess we'll try to wrap things up there and just end the video. And so I would like to remind you that these have all been my opinions, and now I'd like to hear yours. What did you think of the casting so far? You happy with the choices? You have any worries about them? Anyone specifically you'd like to see cast in some of the other roles? I'm curious for your thoughts, so make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know.